So shout out to the Knicks. Y'all did your big one. I don't live there anymore, and I did not watch not one single game, but I'm happy for you. Hello and welcome to Queen Things, the show where we talk about the things that matter to us queens, because if it matters to us, it matters. I'm your host, KJ Miller. I'm a founder, a lecturer, a content creator, and I am about done with Summer House. After that aftermath episode, my God, yes, we're going to talk about it briefly. What else are we going to talk about today? A lot. I have a lot on my mind. Bit of a hodgepodge. Is there a main topic today? Don't know. We're going to get into your comments from the last episode. You guys had a lot of thoughts about Ariana Grande, a few about other things. So we're going to talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about the Knicks. As an avid sports fan, no. Clearly, I'm not an avid sports fan, but that brought some joy to me these last few days. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about books, just a little bit. I am now a book nerd. I'm a book nerd, a book girly, a book talker, bookish. I'm bookish. I'm still learning the lingo. But I'm into the books is what I'm trying to tell you. We'll talk a little bit about that. I want to touch on Jen Hamilton. She shared some personal news, and I'm not going to get into the personal news. I am going to get into actually something she shared afterwards. I want to talk about it. We'll get into it. And then if there's time, I'm going to talk about some founder news around a brand called Bread Beauty. I want to give my take on some of the things happening therein. As I said, bit of a hodgepodge. We have a lot to talk about it. We'll get into it after the announcements. And what are the announcements? Well, number one, if you are watching, as you can see, I'm not in my usual spot. I'm in my guest bedroom because my daughter has been homesick with strep throat. And so when she's homesick, claims all of the first floor. All right. You can hear what she's doing from every edifice. So edifice, that's probably not the word I'm looking for. The point is, she's loud. She's allowed to be. She's 5 years old. So I'm upstairs. That's why the visual that I'm giving you is different. That's announcement one. Announcement two, which we'll talk about a little later in the book section. But I have decided now that I am a book girl, I want to talk about it with as many people as possible. And this is my podcast. Okay. So I will be from time to time, or maybe every time, throwing my current book recommendations at the end of the pod. So for those of you who don't care about what I'm reading, it'll be at the end. You won't have to listen to it. You can press pause when you're done. But for those of you who do care, that's where I'm going to talk about it. And I'll continue to talk about it in other places as well. But you know what? I decided my podcast, and I'm into these books. Why not talk about them? That'll be at the end. That's announcement number two. And announcement number three is this month's bonus episode. I have decided, I thought about doing a Lizzo album review, but I'm going to do an Olivia Rodrigo album review for this month. Frankly, I'm just more excited about her album. I don't know what to tell you. I am still a Lizzo fan, but as I shared in last week's episode, the clips that I've been seeing and the bits that I've been hearing and the few songs that I have listened to do not have me excited. Frankly, I don't want to spend a whole bonus episode on that. At least currently I don't. So I'm going to spend it on Olivia Rodrigo's album instead. I've done a little bit of listening. So far, what I've heard, I've liked. So that'll be this month's bonus. Join me over on Patreon. And that concludes our announcements. All right, let's begin with this Summer House aftermath. I don't have much to say other than I was extremely annoyed by this episode. Extremely annoyed. And I already posted about it over on TikTok if you want to see my real-time thoughts, because I posted while I was watching. It just felt like the entire first 45 minutes, the conversation between Amanda and Lindsay, and then also the conversation between West and Kyle, pretty much the theme was we should feel sorry for Amanda. West manipulated Amanda. Amanda's going through this hard time. West did this thing he always does with girls. And like Amanda was so caught up because she was so sad coming out of this relationship with Kyle. And that's how she got dragged into this. And I could not disagree more. West did not manipulate Amanda. Amanda went into this eyes wide open. She has seen everything West has done and said to Sierra and to every other girl in his life. She has had a front row seat. She was not bamboozled by this man. She chose him because he chose her and she wanted to be chosen. She's a classic pick-me. And you know what? Being a pick-me is not a crime. It is a bad look. You look trifling and terrible, but it's not a crime. You're allowed to be a pick-me. You're also allowed to get the consequences of these dumbass actions. And I am not here for this rewriting of history of, oh, woe is Amanda. No, no, no. You chose your fate. You made your bed. Now you're lying in it. None of us should feel sorry for you. Not Nan, one of us. Okay. I certainly do not. And while I usually agree with Lindsay Hubbard's takes, and she had some, good moments in that conversation, this idea that Amanda was manipulated by West, absolutely fucking not. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I will not be letting that retelling go told. It's silly. Come on. She's an adult. So the first 45 minutes were incredibly, incredibly frustrating. And I don't personally feel the need to go into detail on them. And then I will say the last 15 minutes, which was Sierra's conversation with Miha, also to me felt like it was attempting to feed into this narrative of we don't have to hate Amanda because look, Sierra's moved on and she's actually even made a new friend and they're having mimosas. So she's not that worse for the wear. She's okay. All of it seemed like it was trying to craft this narrative of why we shouldn't dislike Amanda. And I'm not buying it. I'm not here for it. I don't care for it. I don't want it. It just made me mad. I am glad Sierra's moved on. She should be happy. She should be having mimosas. She should be toasting with whomever she wants. She should be in Fiji. She should be in all the places she is. And I'm very, very happy for her. But in this particular context, with the rest of the episode, it felt like it was trying to serve me up a narrative of we don't have to be mad at Amanda anymore because she was just a poor victim of West. Mind you, she was just in Italy with West. If she was a victim of his, why is she still traveling and gallivanting with him? She's not. She is choosing this path and she deserves every last consequence of her action, all the smoke that she's getting, and any attempt to convince me otherwise will fall on deaf ears. No. And that really is all I have to say about that. There's no reason to go beat by beat. It was annoying. It was frustrating, and I rebuke it. The only good news to share on that front is the rumors have begun that West has been fired, and that was shared by TMZ. And say what you want about TMZ, they tend to get their stories right. 9 times out of 10, if TMZ is reporting on it, you can trust it. Not all the time. But I will say they have some real journalists over there. Somebody is digging through the dirt over at TMZ. They get it in the worst way possible. I would not call them good people at all. I would just say they're usually right. So I hope the news is correct. I hope West has been fired. Frankly, I'm hoping Amanda gets fired too. It just seems like based on that episode last night, she's not getting fired because they're trying to do this redemption thing. And I just... But 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Moving right along, let's dive into some of your comments from last week's episode. So let's start with your feedback on my take on Ariana Grande, which, as a reminder, my take was mostly that people of the internet seem extremely confident in diagnosing her with an eating disorder. Just in the confidence with which people are saying it out loud, despite not being doctors. And eating disorders not being a disease that you can diagnose simply by looking at someone is concerning to me and is jarring to me. That was largely the take. Okay, so you guys had a lot of feedback. I would say probably the most prominent feedback, and I'll read a couple of the comments, was that while we might not be able to diagnose her specifically with a specific eating disorder, we can look at her and see that something is wrong and that there is an illness there. Even if we can't name it specifically, she is visibly underweight and visibly malnourished, seemed to be the take. So this one from Patricia Kelly says she is visibly ill, not just visibly thin. We see it with our own eyes and do not want it to be aspirational or normalized. Similar comment from Lapina 23. As someone that grew up in the 2000s, I think it's important not to normalize this extreme thinness that we have been seeing on the red carpet lately. Then a pretty long comment from Dear Heart 5009. I'm going to jump into the middle of it. She opens by talking about Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift admittedly had an eating disorder. She spoke about it in her previous documentary. She says, bodies do not get as thin as Taylor's was without being starved of the nutrients that we need to survive. Taylor looked as skinny as she did because she had an eating disorder, and the children and adults who chase her level of thinness do so by having eating disorders. And Ariana is significantly more visibly malnourished now than Taylor Swift was then. I don't know why she is that thin, but it is a safe assumption that she is in some way dangerously unwell because bodies do not look like that unless they are being significantly deprived or depleted of the nutrients we all need in order to survive. That's what's meant by glorification, which is a bad term, but is much quicker to say than this essay. Okay, I think that kind of sums up that thought. And look, I have a few thoughts. One is, I did recently see a video of Ariana Grande's. I shared this with my husband from her tour, where I forget what the song is, but when she ends the song, she ends kind of in a pose where her chest is jutted out and the lights are darkened other than like kind of one spooky looking spotlight above. Anyway, the effect of the light and the pose is that you can see almost every bone in her chest. Is that your sternum? I don't know. A doctor, I am not. And it is jarring. And I shared this last week. Some of what we're seeing from this tour visibly is jarring. Her body does look quite thin. And so I do understand the take that even if we cannot know what exactly is going on, you can say, this is not healthy. I understand that take. I don't think I'm ready to say that this is not healthy. I just think what we define as healthy is so warped that I don't feel qualified to look at someone and say healthy, unhealthy. On any end of the spectrum, right? Super, super thin, super, super heavy. I don't feel qualified. However, I do understand the take that, like, when you see something like that, it is so jarring that there is almost an unconscious or involuntary response that is to be a bit taken aback and scared. And I do also understand wanting us not to normalize that level of thinness. What I guess, again, I'll say is, I'm not sure that Ariana Grande, simply by existing at that size, is quote unquote normalizing it. Like, she is the size she is. She also is a famous pop star on tour. That's her job, so it's like, should she not go on tour? Should she not sing? Should she not act? Should she not make an album? If doing all of those things in and of itself is quote unquote glorification and normalization, right? Should she just hide if she is in fact unwell? Is no one allowed to be unwell in public? Right? Like if she is unwell, should she just be unwell and alone? I don't know. And that's where, again, I just get nervous. I do see the points that people are making, and I'm not necessarily calling them wrong. I guess I just would like to offer the viewpoint that, to me, whatever it is she may or may not be going through, I disagree with the idea that she's not allowed to go through it publicly. I disagree with the idea that simply by being on a stage, she is normalizing and glorifying a particular body type. Like, people have to be able to exist. I'm bald, not by choice, because of an illness. And I sometimes get online bald. Am I glorifying being bald and shaving off your hair simply because that's a decision that I made? I don't think so. Am I normalizing it? I don't think so. I think I'm just existing in the body that I have and with the condition that I have. Should I no longer be in front of a camera doing and saying the things that I'm saying because I've got this condition? Because someone somewhere thinks, like, we don't want young girls out there to think that they no longer need their hair and to just be shaving it off willy-nilly. I get this is not a perfect analogy. I know it's not a perfect analogy. I'm just simply saying that if she is unwell, should she not be allowed to exist and do her job as an unwell person? But I think the answer to that, if people say, like, no, but we should be allowed to talk about it, and that's fair. I think that's fair. And maybe we leave it there. All right. And then you guys also had a lot of thoughts about the Taylor and Olivia conversation. A reminder there, my take was, Olivia is allowed to be upset about, sort of what happened with Taylor and with Deja Vu. And she doesn't owe it to Taylor or to Swifties or to anyone else to pretend as if it weren't upsetting. But I also don't feel like she's been milking it. She talks about it when asked. I haven't ever heard her say anything negative about Taylor, nor have I ever heard her unprompted bring it up. So, I think she's allowed to have her feelings and speak about it when asked, or really anytime, frankly. I'm going to read a comment from Sarah Moody 8085. I think it encapsulates a lot of sort of what I was reading. She says, and it's a longer one, but I'll read the whole thing. As someone who is also a fan of both Taylor and Olivia, I agree she's allowed to feel how she feels and answer how she chooses. That said, I kind of get where some Swifties come from when they say Olivia's team milks this because the narrative benefits Olivia. The exact same thing happened on Olivia's same album with Paramore's Misery Business and Olivia's Good For You. Actually, that one would be worse because the ex-bandmate of Paramore did sue Olivia over the songs sounding similar, and Taylor did not. Olivia has talked about how huge of an influence Paramore was to her, but no one criticizes Hayley Williams / Paramore or makes them out to be the bad guy. Taylor's a much bigger name, so I get why that situation would be the one people focus on, but it's not lost on me how the reactions are so different. Anyway, I love them both. Love Hayley, love Taylor, love Olivia, love all the girls. So thank you, Sarah, for that comment. You got a lot of replies. I'll read one from Cheyenne Dumont, 5862. She says, if it happened to Taylor, she'd milk it as well. She'd write a song about how people hate when a woman does anything or that they're mean to her. Then she says she doesn't even bring it up unless someone mentions it, but you'd rather hear about it from Taylor for the next 3 albums. Listen. Now, I don't know that Cheyenne needed to write it quite like that, but I think she has a point. When Taylor feels aggrieved about something, she puts it in her songs, sometimes many times over. How many times have we heard about, in some way or another, the Kanye Kim debacle? I feel like it has been either alluded to or directly spoken about, a la Thank You, Amy, in minimum 4 of Taylor's songs. Minimum. Okay. And I'm not faulting her for that. Although by the time we got to Thank You, Amy and Cassandra, I did feel like, all right, girl. But she's allowed to feel her feelings and she's allowed to express them however she wants. I've said that many, many times, even if it's a subject matter where I might feel like we get it, we got it, we're good. Who am I? She's the one who lived these feelings and lived these experiences. So she's allowed to feel what she feels. But so is Olivia. And I personally feel like because she really is only bringing it up when asked, the fact that the situation with Taylor is being brought up more than the situation with Hayley is a reflection on the people interviewing her and not her, right? Because the people interviewing her also know Taylor's the bigger name. That's going to get more clicks than talking about Hayley Williams. So I don't put that on Olivia. I still don't fault her. I see, what both of these commenters are saying, but I don't think that Swifties are justified in feeling quote unquote annoyed simply because Taylor's name is being brought up more, because it's not being brought up more by Olivia. And also, even if it were, she's allowed. This is her lived experience, And that concludes the comment section. You guys had a lot of good comments from the last episode. And I love to read and I love to engage. So thank you for that. Let's talk briefly about sports. Look, here's what I want to say about the Knicks winning. I guess I'll touch lightly on what's her name? Monica McNutt. Is that her name? The sportscaster who accused Taylor of not being a fan. And then the Swifties got all upset and pulled out every photo from like the 99s and the 2000s of Taylor at the games. Is that her name? Hold on. Confirmed. Yes, her name is Monica McNutt. If you missed it, while the Knicks were on their legendary run, Taylor showed up to game 4, I believe. That was the huge big game where they had that huge come from behind. But when Taylor showed up, Monica McNutt said, Taylor's not even a fan. Get out of here. And of course, then the Swifties pulled up, like I said, every photo. At least the photos I have seen of her at Knicks games all look like they are pre-pandemic, just judging from her haircut. I don't know my Taylor Swift timeline all that well, but I feel like they were kind of around that 1989 timeframe. So, which is to say many years ago. So I just have 2 things to say about the Monica McNutt of it all. One, I think she can be excused for not knowing that Taylor Swift actually was a Knicks fan, like had attended other games, right? Like if you're not a Swiftie, I don't think you're digging through the Taylor Swift photo archives like that to be like, oh, wait, back in 2017, 2018, she stayed up at the Knicks games. Like, I think we can excuse her for not knowing that. That's part one. Part two, though, is she didn't need to say anything. And I think that's the thing Swifties are probably more upset about. Like, yeah, it makes sense that maybe you didn't know she used to come to these games, but like, why say anything? Like people are allowed to come to games, even if they're not fans. Like even if she wasn't a fan, you're allowed to come to a game without it being like something to comment on. And I do agree with that. I guess I say this as someone who also came late to the Taylor Swift fandom. Sometimes people who have been a fan of something for longer feel like they have to be the gatekeeper and they get to decide whether or not someone else is real enough or loyal enough or is just a fair weather fan. You're just here because now it's cool to be here, but you weren't in the trenches for the last 53 years when the Knicks were losing, so you're not a real fan. First of all, I think that's silly because it's fun to be a part of something that a lot of other people are excited about. Taylor herself has spoken about this. It's fun to be excited about something when other people are excited about it. The whole reason I even became a Taylor Swift fan is because I watched the Eras tour. And why did I watch it? Because everybody else had watched it and everyone else was so excited about it. And I did not want to be left out. That's why I watched it. Okay. And that is what sent me down the rabbit hole. Purely FOMO. And it is fun to be a part of something that other people are excited about. So I don't get when people do that. Oh, you haven't been here. Oh, you weren't a part of it. Oh, you're just here because now everyone's here. Okay. What if they are here just because everyone's here now? Now it's a party. Hello? We're not allowed to like a party? So I think the people who were more upset at the part two of it all, not the part one where she didn't actually know that Taylor used to be a fan, because again, why would she know that? But the part two of it all, you didn't have to say anything. I think that that's valid. She didn't have to say anything, but she has apologized. I'm going to ask that we not drag this one. Okay. She apologized. She shouldn't have said it. She didn't know. Whatever. Let's let it go because the Knicks did win. There's a parade today, not today, when you hear this. So Thursday, Mom Donnie's hosting a ticker tape parade. He's been all over the city in his jersey, so excited. And he always has on like a business suit under the jersey. I love Mom Donnie. I really love Mom Donnie. He just brings me so much joy. And the fact that this win has brought him so much joy and in New York so much joy, again, brings me joy. I don't live there anymore, but I do feel, tangentially involved because I lived there for so long. I lived in New York longer than I've lived back here in Columbus. I've only been here for less than 3 years, So I feel tangentially involved. I like it. And I like when other people get excited, because of other people's excitement. To me, that is a sign of empathy. You're excited, so I'm going to get excited too. And now I get to be a part of this big exciting experience. That's life, is it not? That's empathy. That's joy. That's matching energies. I love it. Okay. So shout out to the Knicks. Y'all did your big one. I don't live there anymore, and I did not watch not one single game, but I'm happy for you. Oh, really quickly, I just saw someone in the comments got mad, I think at me. The way they phrased it was a little confusing. This is a comment from Paz Global Bunny. She said, why do they always use a title to attract people with what they want to hear and then go on for 20, 30, or 40 minutes about something completely different that nobody cares about? They should have put that in the title. Nobody would have clicked on the video, and then they only talk for 5 minutes about what people clicked on. That's a scam. So I think she's talking about me, but I'm not sure because she keeps saying they, even though it's my comment section. So if she's talking about me, I don't know why she wouldn't say you. Like, why do you use a title to attract people? So if you're not talking about me, Paz Global Bunny, apologies. But if you are, I just thought it was kind of funny because this is a podcast. Like, sometimes my podcasts will be single subject. Oftentimes they're not, and there isn't a great way to put every single thing that I'm going to touch on in the title, but we do try to get to it in the description. So I guess I would say, Paz Global Bunny, to check the description, because it's hard to put everything in a title, but we do try and let people know what we're going to be talking about in the description. We do try. But yes, the title we try to make as engaging as possible because we do want people to click on it. Yes, guilty of that. Just thought I'd address that because I thought it was funny and weird. Anyway, moving right along, because this is another episode where we have a number of topics, not all of which will make it into the title. I want to touch on this Jen Hamilton news. So if you didn't see it, Jen Hamilton announced, I actually didn't see the video, that she was getting a divorce. She quickly deleted it. And because Jen Hamilton, if you're not familiar with her, is a big, big, big TikTok personality, millions of followers on TikTok and on other platforms, also just released a book called Birth Vibes, #1 New York Times bestseller. She's a nurse. That's her day job, a birthing nurse specifically. And she's also a mutual of mine on TikTok, which I feel very lucky to say because I think she's like so amazing. And we're mutuals, which makes me feel special. Anyway, she made the video, then deleted it. And then everyone came out with opinions. Everybody. I mean, it was flooding TikTok. And I didn't even know what to make of it because I didn't see the video. So I was like, is this real? Like, what are people talking about? And a lot of the videos I thought were very much attempting to support Jen, basically like, we have your back, whatever. But also a lot of people were kind of shitting on her husband and saying like, he's doing this because like she's blown up. Now she's a bestseller and like he can't handle the pressure. And I didn't make any video about it. I didn't comment about it because, she's a mutual of mine and I didn't even know if any of it was real. But also I'm always hesitant to when I make videos about my mutuals. Like I have done it. I do it sparingly. To me, it kind of feels like almost like we're colleagues, kind of like a courteous thing to not make you a big part of my commentary. When I do it, it's always positive. First of all, I've never made a negative video about any of my mutuals. But again, I do it sparingly. I don't know. To me, it feels like professional courtesy. So I didn't say anything. And then she released a video basically saying like, in that moment when I made that video, I was just looking for a little bit of support. I didn't realize it would become, public fodder for everyone to comment on. Like, please don't, like I still care about him. I still love him. Like we're still a family and we're still, basically like, please don't do that. Okay. So then why am I now talking about it when she's very explicitly said, please don't do that? Well, because I want to talk about that part of it. I had to give you a bit of the backstory to get to this piece of it. But I didn't give you the backstory because I'm trying to like talk about Jen's divorce. She very clearly doesn't want people like talking a lot about it. So I'm just doing it as context. I'm contextualizing what it is I'm about to say. I'm offering no commentary on the divorce itself, and I will not. But as it relates to that second video she made, wherein she is saying, I wanted some support, but what I don't want is everyone making this fodder, right? My thought on that is it is so, first of all, relatable. And I commented on that and said, like I haven't posted about it and just know that I'm thinking about you, basically. But it's so relatable. And it is one of the reasons I so sparingly speak about my husband and my marriage and like anything personal on social. And I would argue Jen is pretty sparing with it as well. Like I've seen her talk about her husband like maybe 1 or 2 times. Like she speaks about her profession. She speaks about nursing. She speaks about issues going on in the world. I rarely see her speak about her personal life. And I'm similar. Like when I bring up my husband, it's kind of in passing. Rarely have you ever seen me make an entire video about this man, or my close friends, anything like that. Because I'm very wary of people feeling like that piece of my life is just like up for public consumption. And it's, that then makes me think about artists and the Taylors and Beyoncés of the world who do put their lives into their work, who do speak about what's going on very personally, and how it does become public consumption necessarily, right? Once you put something out into the world for public consumption, people have the right to comment on it. And so I feel so much for Jen, and I, again, out of professional courtesy and out of my respect for her, won't comment on the divorce. However, once it's out there, I also can't fault people for commenting on it, right? Like if I'm talking about it publicly, then it is public fodder, and then I can't get upset when other people talk about it publicly. And that is just such a it's stressful. I imagine a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people who make art or make content and put it out there, it's this stressful agreement. It's this deal you make with the public. You are consuming this content from me, and my life is interesting to you, so I'm going to continue to talk about it. And the reward I get for that is the money that I'm making, the followers that I'm gaining, the brand partnerships, the album sales, the tour tickets. Like that's our grand bargain. I'm going to get paid for it. I'm going to reap the reward, but I'm also going to bear the burden of you then being able to take everything that I put out there and project anything you want onto it. Talk about it till the cows come home. Make YouTube videos and TikTok videos and podcast episodes and everything else, because I've put it out there in the world for consumption. And I feel so much for Jen because, basically she's saying, I put it out there in this sort of moment of weakness, but now I kind of want to put that cat back in the bag. And you can't put the cat back in the bag, and that sucks. It sucks. But it also is a part of this grand bargain that we've made. And so I guess my point in saying all this is I am going to continue just for myself to try not to put too much personal stuff out there. I try to leave my opinions to what's already in the public realm, and then also sort of like my professional opinions. I don't mind sharing about my professional journey. But as it relates to my personal journey, I am going to continue to try to keep most of that under wraps, because I do understand that once it's out there, it's public fodder. And that's scary, Speaking of professional journeys, this last topic before I get to the books is one that I came across. It's a post from the founder of Topicals. Topicals is a skincare brand. It's Black owned, selling really well, and sold in Sephora. And the founder, her name is Olamide Aloe. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. She put out a video a week or so ago talking about a brand she had acquired called Bread Beauty. It's a hair care brand. And basically talking about kind of like the relaunch and the most recent product launch for that brand has flopped. And she is the sole investor. Like she acquired it, I guess, personally, or her company. She has a holdings company acquired it, and she's invested a lot into it, and it's flopped. And so she makes this video. We'll include the link. I'm not going to play it. It's on the longer side, but basically she makes this video saying that she's looking for advice, like, what did we do wrong? I'm coming to the internet. And this is a very highly viewed video. It has 163,000 likes. So I'm assuming millions and millions of views. Basically saying, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What do you guys want to see? And then also saying, and here are some of the things I'm planning to do. I'm going to do more community events. I'm going to show up personally in more of the videos, even though that's not something that I typically do because I don't like being in front of the camera. So she's sort of laying out, here are the things that I know I'm going to do in the upcoming weeks and months, but also what do you think I should be doing? And I thought it was a really nice video. It's not an easy thing to get on the internet and be vulnerable as a founder and say, I did this thing, it didn't work, it flopped. And I'm going to try my best to do better. I think that that's a difficult thing to do. I also thought it was an interesting video because somehow the deal for Bread Beauty landed on my desk as well. And you would be surprised the number of deals that land on my desk personally. I don't mean on the desk of my portfolio company that now owns Minted. I mean on my desk, people emailing me personally. KJ, I have this deal that you might be interested in. I would just like to publicly state, I don't have the funds to personally fund any kind of deal. I'm flattered that people think I might, but I don't. So when it does happen, I'm like, huh? Sometimes it's literally from like the bank doing the deal. Now, let me be clear. The deals that people are emailing to me are distressed deals typically. And that's why maybe they think like I personally might be able to scrape together the dollars and the cents. But I would like to publicly state that I cannot. Okay, so don't waste your time on me. Anywho, that's another reason why when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah. Someone actually slid that deal across my desk. I don't know who. Okay, and maybe the person who slid it across my desk wasn't even supposed to do that. Okay, I'm not. Just know somehow I did see it, and that was the other reason I was interested. What I want to say about this is, I appreciated it as a founder because what I think Olamide did not say, but is almost implicitly saying, is your success sometimes is absolutely the result of your hard work. 100%. Okay. I am taking nothing away from her hard work and everything that she built to get Topicals where it is. The thing is, your hard work is not the only factor that determines whether or not you will be successful, right? There are many, many founders out there who have worked and bled and sweat and cried and nearly died for their brands that have never reached the level of success that Topicals now has. For a number of reasons that have nothing to do with their hard work. And I think what she is inadvertently saying and showing in this video is that it's not enough to have a good brand. It's not enough to have good marketing. It's not enough to have the funding. It's not enough to have a founder or a CEO who is working really hard and who knows a lot about building a successful business. There are other factors at play. Sometimes it's about how saturated the market is and whether or not your brand is able to make enough noise to break through how saturated the market is. Sometimes it's about the economy that you are launching in. Like right now, people are being very tight-fisted with their dollars because we have a fascist as a president and gas is $1,000 a gallon. And it doesn't inspire you to spend more money than you've got, right? To spend more on hair care products. There are a million of these little factors that can be at play. And so what I appreciated about this video is that you have someone who has been extremely successful launching one brand, now saying, I'm up at bat again with this other brand and I'm struggling. And I think it just helps underline what I know to be true as a founder and as someone running multiple brands, which is it's not just about the work. It's not just about how smart you are. It's not just about how hard you try. A million things determine whether or not a brand is or isn't successful. And I hope there are other people who maybe are on the entrepreneurial journey who saw this video and could appreciate that as a takeaway as well. And since I'm talking about the entrepreneurial journey, I will just pause and plug Minted's latest launch, our Cloud Cream Skin Tint. This is not an ad. This is just me talking about it because I love it. It is highly moisturizing. It is so lightweight. It's got squalane and hyaluronic acid, two of my favorite moisturizing ingredients. And the launch has been phenomenal. We hit our 30-day sales goal on this product in 7 days. So I'm just so proud of it. And I have been doing a giveaway. I did a giveaway every day for 7 days on my socials. I just picked someone in the comment section and I'm going to do the same thing here. So if you comment on this episode and just say, whatever you want to say about Cloud Cream. First of all, I'll know you listened to a long portion of this episode, but I'll pick one of you and I'm going to send it to you just so you can try it because I love it that much. So couldn't not take the opportunity to give myself little teeny tiny plug. And that brings us to our final topic, which is books. I love books. What's that little video where Taylor was going around talking about, I love songs. And she was like knocking things off of the tables. I love songs. I love songs. That's how I feel about books. I love books. I love books. This is the time for you to check out if you don't want to hear me talk about books. And what type of books am I talking about? Fiction books. I'm talking about fiction books. Shout out to all of you who love nonfiction. Do I read nonfiction? Yeah. I say about 2 or 3 times a year. The rest of the time I'm reading fiction. What genres am I loving? I love romance. Okay. I love thrillers. Specifically, I'm really into suburban thrillers. I've learned is a bit of a subgenre. I love thrillers, and I love what I'm realizing now is called contemporary fiction. Learned that from Goodreads. I would say those are my 3 biggest categories and genres that I love. I made a TikTok recently where I call out my 5-star reads so far. I just added another 5-star. We'll link to that TikTok in case you want to see my 5 stars. We'll also post a link to my Goodreads if you want to find me on Goodreads. And my latest 5-star, I recently finished Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Loved it. It's become like a bit of a thing recently online to kind of be over Emily Henry. I've seen multiple people say like, I'm over Emily Henry. Like, I'm not going to read any more of her books. Well, can't relate. Okay. I've read now, how many of her books have I read? 4. I've read Book Lovers, Happy Place, Great Big Beautiful Life, and People We Meet on Vacation. 3 of those were 5-star for me, and 1 was 4-star. People We Meet on Vacation was 4-star. The rest were 5-star. I'm still loving Emily Henry, okay? And I'm excited to read Beach Read when it comes up off of my wait list on Libby. Can't relate. I still really love her. But I am currently reading Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Loving it. This falls in the category of contemporary fiction, I believe. I won't spoil it, but it's fantastic. I from like the first paragraph pulled me in, loving it. Another book that I think falls in the contemporary fiction category that I read this year was Bright Young Women. Very, very good. And I have decided, it took me many weeks to decide, but I've decided I am going to try to read Yesteryear. Let me tell you something about this. Now that I'm just fully just going all in on my books. It's by Caro Claire Burke, I believe. She is one of the hosts of Diabolical Lies, a podcast I've spoken about many times. And I'll just be very honest. 2 reasons why I thought I'm not going to read that book. The one is it's about trad wives, a trad wife specifically. It's kind of like a riff, I think, on Old Girl from Ballerina Farms, loosely inspired by. And I just find trad wife content to be unbearable. I don't care. And I don't even care enough about it to read like the commentary on it most times. I just don't like it. So that was reason number 1. Reason number 2, if I'm being very honest, was jealousy. Plain and simple, jealousy. She's just had the book launch of an author's dream. She got the book deal. It immediately, the rights, the option to make it into a movie got sold. Now it is. Then a studio picked it up, because selling the option, I've learned, for a film, that happens far more frequently than a film actually then getting picked up by a studio. She had both happen before the book launched. Anne Hathaway picked it up. I think Anne Hathaway is going to star in it, if I'm not mistaken. It immediately went to the bestseller list. She's been all over TikTok. Every book talker is talking about it. Some love it, some don't. But either way, it doesn't matter because everyone's talking about it. I mean, just the stuff of dreams. And even though I'm not a fiction writer, I am actively trying to get a book sold. And currently, no one's buying it. I'm not giving up hope. Let me be clear. I'm not giving up hope. But yes, I was jealous. Am I allowed to be jealous? My God. So that was the other reason. And I decided to get over myself. Sometimes jealousy is a good trigger. It can be a good trigger. And you know what? I said, let me learn something from her. Let me not let my jealousy block my blessing. Let me learn something from her. Let me read this little book. So it's on my wait list. There's, I think when I decided this last week, it said 16 weeks would be my wait. I get everything from Libby. I have made the decision. I think I do want to start buying my favorite books. I'm going to listen to them on Libby. If I love it, then buy it and add it to my library. So I do want to support these authors by purchasing them, but never let someone tell you you're not supporting an author by getting the book from the library, because the libraries purchase those books. Okay? The libraries purchase those books. So don't let anyone tell you you're not supporting an author because you're getting the books from the library. You absolutely are. However, if it becomes a favorite of mine, I'd like to support even further and purchase the book, which I will be doing. But for this one, I'm just going to wait. And once I do finally read it, I'll let you know. But anyway, all of this to say, I'm just loving books. I'm an audiobook girly. I have to be because I don't have time to sit and read a physical book. So I listen when I'm driving to yoga and everywhere else when I'm doing my chores. But I would love if there are books that you are reading and loving, let me know in the comments. Find me on Goodreads so we can be friends on Goodreads. I'm still figuring that app out. But I have been doing a good job of like updating what I'm reading and updating my reviews. And I'm just loving it. So I'm going to use the end of these episodes to talk about what I'm reading and what I'm loving. And again, if that's not interesting to you, that's okay. Turn it off. Okay. And that's that for this week. I know it was a hodgepodge. Sometimes it's going to be a hodgepodge. These are the things us queens care about. And I'll see you next week.